Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the southeast. As inflation hits a 41-year high, an ITV News survey shows growing numbers of people are relying on credit and already getting into debt to pay for Christmas.
The restaurant in Margate targeted by fraudsters. After losing £50,000, the owners say they may be forced to close.
We've worked really hard to establish ourselves in the Margate restaurant scene, and it seems really heartbreaking to think that it could be all taken away because of some criminals.
Also this Wednesday, the football fan who's come up with his own rather interesting take on a World Cup sticker album.
And the film dedicated to Brighton's Mercedes Glites. The first British woman to swim the English Channel has its screening. Good evening. With Christmas not that far away, this year more than any other perhaps, people are wondering how they're going to afford it. It is claimed almost half of families here will be spending beyond their means to pay for presents and even food.
As inflation hits a 41-year high, figures seen exclusively by ITV News show that growing numbers are relying on credit or buy now, pay later schemes, risking hefty debt payments in the new year when fuel bills are also expected to spike. With more, here's Nick Smith.
The nation may well be tipping into recession, and we are approaching the most expensive time of year when watching the pennies can take a back seat, trying to find those must-have gifts. For many families, Christmas creates a sense of anxiety, especially as they battle spiralling inflation just to afford the basics. Sarah Roberts is a mum with 3 kids. The cost of heating her home and powering equipment used to care for some of her children's disabilities is already stretching her budget, meaning this festive season will be a tough one.
Trying to make sure the children get the Christmas they deserve and keep up with all the household bills and everything is that horrible balance where the children we need the gas and electricity more. So my fear is I'm going to have to, really scale back Christmas, which for children like this that already have to put up with a lot, it seems a horrible thing to have to do.
The Red Eagle Foundation in Whitstable in Kent collects and distributes gifts to local families who might otherwise go without. But their chair is growing worried that people are struggling to be as generous as they were in previous years.
We're expecting demand to be even higher this year, what with the cost of living crisis, but equally, there could be a potential that not as many people can give as much as they have previously, and we're not really going to know the full extent of that until the first few weeks of December. We just hope people that are still able to give can still give and be as generous as they have in the past.
Overall gift purchasing is expected to be down on last year, but an exclusive ITV survey reveals more and more customers are relying on credit. In the southeast, nearly half of people are planning on spending outside of their disposable income to cover the cost of Christmas. 1 in 10 are going into or increasing their debt, and a third are feeling worried or stressed about affording the upcoming festivities, with the cost of presents and food their biggest concern. Services like buy now, pay later schemes are expecting record use as people look to spread the cost as much as possible.
We know that a lot of customers are really worried about spending going into the Christmas period, especially with cost of living crisis. A lot of customers are really worried about using spending on their credit card and incurring high interest and excessive fees, so they're turning to buy now, pay later. Our festive forecast shows that 2 in 5 people are looking to spend less this Christmas. 1 in 10 customers, we believe, will be using buy now, pay later to help.
However, such services come with a warning that failure to clear the debts in the allocated time can lead to significant interest penalties. And with the price of presents shooting up, many are faced with a stark choice of cutting costs or entering the new year with the prospect of still trying to clear that seasonal spending on top of all those other expenses. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Well, let's talk to Lynn Beattie, who goes by the name of Mrs. Mummy Penny, and she's also a financial expert for some hints and tips. Lynn, this Christmas is going to be tough for a lot of people. There isn't long left to plan. Is there still time for people to do a budget?
Absolutely, there's still time. What I would love for people to do, I actually did this yesterday, get a bit of paper and write down all the things that are going to cost you money leading up to Christmas. So the gifts that are still left to buy, the food, the cards, the decorations, the wrapping. Are you travelling anywhere to get to Christmas? And putting a pound amount next to all those items, really thinking about, when you add it up, it's often quite scary to get that total number. Are there things you can cut back on? Don't send Christmas cards. Can you reuse wrapping paper from that you've maybe been throwing under the stairs for a few months? And can you have those conversations with family members about maybe not exchanging gifts? Because let's face it, it's probably a relief for them if you have that conversation to save them money as well as you.
Let's talk about some practical advice in terms of saving money. I mean, I guess the big ticket items are presents. I guess you would suggest shopping around to get the best deal. Well, what about things like Christmas dinner? Can we shave a few quid off?
We absolutely can, yes. Christmas dinner is totally possible to do it on a budget. It's buy the turkey frozen now from one of the cheaper supermarkets. There's always amazing deals on the vegetables, the potatoes and the parsnips and the Brussels sprouts just before Christmas. The supermarkets often put them down to like 19p a packet, so it's worth waiting for them. And what I like to do is, with the Christmas treats, you know, the tubs of celebrations or whatever, do them a little bit at a time. So maybe buy one each week from now, and then you'll have sort of a nice stash that you've bought in little increments, and you don't have to do, you know, that massive shop a couple of days before Christmas when the shop's around anyway. It's the most stressful shopping day. But also with gifts, I think shop around, do price comparisons on particularly tech items. Black Friday is not necessarily the best time to buy gifts. Which did a report where 80% of the prices have been cheaper before Black Friday.
OK, Lynn, we have to leave it there, but some really good tips there. Thank you very much for talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Staying with our finances now and over to Westminster and our political correspondent Phil Hornby. Phil, the Chancellor warning ahead of tomorrow's budget that there will have to be some tough decisions.
Yes, Sangeeta, it's only a few weeks ago I was standing here saying tax cuts for everyone. Well, tomorrow it's going to be tax rises for everyone. How quickly things change. It's going to be pretty grim news, I think, for most people. There will be special help for people on the state pension and for people on benefits, but for most people, taxes will be going up tomorrow, and there will be big spending cuts. Almost every government department will have to deal with spending cuts, and local government too. We heard from Kent County Council, didn't we, earlier this week, that they're basically warning they could face bankruptcy. They're running out of money. Well, councils, I think, will tomorrow be feeling the pinch. It's all the government say to get inflation and interest rates down. As we've heard, inflation hit a new high today, and the things that are going up fastest are the essentials, food and energy.
And on another subject, Phil, MPs have been talking about people crossing the Channel in small boats.
Yeah, and talking about that deal with the French that was signed this week. One MP from Kent wanted to know if the French are cooperating with the British authorities or whether they're actually cooperating with the people in the boats.
Radio chatter recorded by one of my South Thanet constituents just this week records a high level of cooperation between the French Navy and UK Border Force as the French Navy escorts migrants through French waters to then be picked up on our side of the Meridian line. Now, the new French deal, does it include a requirement for the French Navy to stop and pick up migrant dinghies while still in French waters?
And that straight question did not get a straight answer. The Prime Minister today said that solving the problem of the people coming across the Channel is, well, kind of his second priority at the moment, but it's right up there on his to-do list. Top of the list, of course, is the economy, and that will be centre stage here in Parliament tomorrow morning.
And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Phil, thank you for now. And remember, there'll be updates on the budget and more news from right across the South East on our website. Please head to our website, itv.com/Meridian.
In other news, a Kent County councillor has been suspended from the Conservative group and from the National Party over pictures that appear to show him at a rally of the far-right New British Union in 2013. In a statement tonight, Councillor Andy Weatherhead, who represents Hythe West, apologised for causing any offence and says his association with the NBU was brief and in the spirit of education and curiosity.
A multi-million-pound expansion of one of Kent's busiest hospital emergency departments is open to the public. Patients began being treated in the larger A&E facilities at the QE/QM in Margate earlier. It's hoped additional treatment areas will help reduce waiting times.
The owners of a restaurant that's inside the Turner Contemporary Art Gallery in Margate are worried they could lose their business after £50,000 was taken by fraudsters.
Natalia Ribby says her biggest concern would be having to let go of the 17 staff that work there during such difficult financial times. A fundraising page has been set up to try and save the restaurant and its employees. Sarah Saunders has our report.
The Barletta restaurant in the Turner Contemporary in Margate is staring down the barrel of bankruptcy after con artists scammed the business out of £50,000.
At this point, I just keep saying to my accountant that we need a Christmas miracle. We've worked really hard to establish ourselves in the Margate restaurant scene, and it seems really heartbreaking to think that it could be all taken away because of some criminals.
And the worst part for Natalia, that they may have to lay off staff if the business were to fold.
We have suppliers who are waiting to be paid. We're in a crisis right now in our industry where everyone is reliant on every bit of money, so to even have suppliers waiting to be paid feels awful. But for me, the team is the most important. They're my friends and my colleagues, and I need to protect them.
Natalia says the sophisticated fraudsters had knowledge about her banking, seemed to send a message from her online bank's app, called masquerading as officials from that same bank, persuading her she was under cyber attack and should move her money into a new account. From there, it disappeared. Her banks say this type of swindle is not covered, so they won't return her money.
I'm obviously American, and I've built a life for myself to be here, and to think that it could be taken away because I've been targeted by these people. It's just... I'm beside myself.
Last year, more than 1,000 people in Kent and Sussex were targeted by cheque, card and online banking fraud, with losses of £4.7 million.
Fraud is absolutely on the rise. We saw a big rise during the coronavirus pandemic, and we're seeing a big rise now during the cost of living crisis. Unfortunately, we do live in a society now where we do have to double take what the information is that's coming through to us.
A friend has set up a GoFundMe page. Natalia is in touch with the financial ombudsman, and she hopes the business can trade its way to a brighter future. But right now, she feels as though fraudsters have stolen that from her, along with the money. Sarah Saunders, ITV News, Margate.
You're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Coming up, remembering Brighton's Mercedes Glides, the film celebrating the first British woman to swim the Channel.
And the football fan who's come up with his own distinctive take on a World Cup sticker album.
And remember, you can find more on today's top stories by going to our website. Just to remind you, the address is itv.com/Meridian. You can give us a call with any story ideas or news you have. Our number 0808 1010 095. And you can follow us, of course, on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.
Next tonight, there are calls for more to be done to challenge harmful and negative attitudes towards disability.
It comes as research seen exclusively by ITV News shows that 28% of disabled people in our region have been accused of faking their disability.
Well, to mark Disability History Month over the next few weeks, we'll be exploring the challenges disabled people still face on a daily basis. Catherine Walker has this report.
This is perfect timing, but basically I was born completely deaf.
Whether it's by the fire pit or on the dance floor, steps have been made to raise awareness of disabilities. But in Seaford, Sam says more needs to be done. He has cerebral palsy and often comes across outdated and offensive attitudes.
In a restaurant with a friend or a carer, and the waiter comes up to take our order, and they ask who I'm with, what does he want. I just feel like people need more common sense and just think for themselves about how would they like to be treated.
A recent survey seen exclusively by ITV News shows this kind of discrimination is widespread. 73% of disabled people in the South East say they've experienced negative attitudes in the past 5 years. 10% have been verbally abused and 28% have been accused of faking their disability. 19% said they avoid going out altogether.
As a disabled person who regularly experiences negative attitudes just going about my daily business, I feel that this research is actually really validating, because often when I've shared my experiences, people don't always believe me. So then I almost feel gaslit.
It's a message that influencers like James are keen to highlight. He's a disabled fitness coach and uses social media to challenge stereotypes.
I say the good side tips, also I do say the bad side, because that's normal life. This isn't just having no other understanding and to appreciate what we have to go through on a daily basis.
Okay, so it's Disability History Month.
Blogger Pippa agrees. She has an invisible disability and wants to raise awareness of different types of discrimination.
So why is Disability History Month important to you?
The fact of the matter is there are still so many microaggressions around things like reasonable adjustments, people who fight for access to certain places. There can sometimes just be this attitude of that people are asking for more than others see that they're entitled to. So I still think we're having to advocate a lot just to simply have equal opportunities.
Hi guys.
And for campaigners like Pippa and James, that's one of the aims of Disability History Month, to challenge negative attitudes and help everyone become a better ally. Catherine Walker, ITV News.
And the ITV Evening News continues here with the national and international news at 6:30 with a preview, Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the programme, millions feel the squeeze as prices just keep on rising. With inflation topping 11%, we'll ask if it's finally peaked. Also ahead.
This is anti-bullying week. Will he apologise?
The Deputy Prime Minister under fire after 2 formal complaints of bullying are made against him.
I'm confident I behaved professionally throughout and look forward to transparently addressing any claims that have been made.
And find out why there are so few eggs on supermarket shelves. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Now let's get some sports. Andrew joins us in the studio. And Andrew, the World Cup countdown is almost over.
Absolutely, just 4 days to go until the tournament kicks off. The England team are in Qatar ahead of their first World Cup match on Monday. Manager Gareth Southgate, who grew up in Crawley, is hoping to go one step further after guiding the team to the 2018 World Cup semi-finals and then the Euros final. In Qatar, he told us the squad will be very busy ahead of kick-off on Monday lunchtime.
Yeah, we've got to make the most of the time we've got. It's a quick turnaround from the end of the Premier League season in particular. But you know, we're used to that. We're used to preparing in that time scale for normal international matches. A bit different for a tournament this time, but we're looking forward to getting on the grass with the players tomorrow.
Now, away from the action on the pitch and the politics off it, one young dad is facing a mammoth task this World Cup, drawing all the players in his own unique way.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Alex is limbering up for the World Cup because once again he'll be spending hour upon hour drawing footballers in his own particular style. all started in 2014 when he told his wife Sian he wanted to get the Panini World Cup sticker book. A report at the time said the average cost for filling the album would be up to £450, so Sian had an idea.
Her suggestion was we could draw them ourselves, despite not really knowing how, and not having any artistic talent or pretensions about that ever. So the tournament started the next day. We got to work, and over the next 31 days, I think it was, drew 640 footballers, filled the entire album without spending a penny, with highly questionable drawings.
Alex and Sian have since become internet stars, raising over £20,000 for charities across the southeast, and have now brought out their own World Cup book.
A man phoned us up and said, would you like to write a book? And I said, I don't know how to write. And he said, yes, but you don't know how to draw either. And that seems a good point. So I said yes, and we sort of stumbled our way to having a book, and it's all very confusing. It's a poorly illustrated, incomplete history of the World Cup. The drawings, though, are highly questionable, and it's important people know that before they go and spend money on it.
And it's not ending there. Alex is ready to take on this World Cup, drawing every player in the album.
Yeah, it's quite an undertaking. We've got 2 young children. We've got, real life. Christmas is coming up. It's a busy time of year, and we'll be sort of sentencing ourselves to drawing endless footballers all day, every day. It'd be nice to actually watch a World Cup one time, but we tend to spend it sort of staring at our laps, covered in pencil shavings.
From drawing on their sofa to an exhibition at the National Football Museum and their own book, the pair known as No School Draw are taking on the world. It's a talent. Now, away from the World Cup, the FA Cup has brought a smile to the faces of Gillingham fans in what's been a difficult season in the league. The Gills avoiding an upset here in their first round replay, thanks to Lewis Walker's goal seeing off non-league AFC Fylde. As despite Scott Cashcott missing from the spot early on, the Gills through to round 2, where they'll visit non-league Dagenham and Redbridge. So it's Gillingham and Ebbsfleet in round 2 action on November the 26th and 27th.
What do you football people say? Bring it on?
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Thank you. Now, she's been described as Brighton's forgotten swimming hero. Mercedes Gleitz, the first British woman to swim the English Channel in October 1927.
But her record was in doubt when a rival contested her achievement, so she took it on again. Mercedes died in 1981, but now her amazing story has been turned into a film, with the first screening held at Brighton's Duke of York Cinema. Charlotte Wilkins was there.
We are not turning back.
She'll never make it.
She has to try.
Mercedes Gleitz was a trailblazer in women's sport.
Miss Gleitz will go down in history as the first British woman to ever swim the English Channel.
But after a rival claimed to have completed the same swim earlier that week, Mercedes' achievement was questioned.
I did swim the channel. I know you did, but they'll never believe you.
Her only way to prove that she'd done it was to do it again.
Show them what you know to be true, that you can swim the English Channel. Come on, girl.
Now Mercedes' incredible story of persistence and resilience has been brought to life on the big screen at Brighton's historic Duke of York Cinema. And it's the work of one of the UK's youngest film directors, Elliot Hasler from Hove.
It is fantastic that we're able to do our first public screening here in Brighton, where we shot a lot of the film and where Mercedes was actually born. We had a blue plaque unveiled for her earlier in the year, so to be able to kind of come together, everyone on the production, to celebrate her in kind of a cinema that she may well have been to herself is really quite special.
Much of the film was shot across the south coast, with many days out at sea.
The Channel's a dangerous place, and I think what it conveyed to us is just how difficult it must have been in those days in particular, where there wasn't the levels of support, where there wasn't the level of knowledge that there is now. To actually swim the Channel was quite remarkable, and for a woman to do it at that time was even more remarkable.
Despite the dangers posed by such a challenge, Mercedes and the actress who played her took it all in their stride.
I really had to understand her mind over matter attitude. For me, that was the biggest hurdle because it was really frightening and it was really challenging. When I was in the water, I always had to make sure I stayed in Mercedes' mindset because she always stayed so calm. I would say to myself, what would Mercedes do in this situation? And it would always be carry on.
The screening received a standing ovation, not just for the film itself, but in recognition of all Mercedes achieved a century ago. Charlotte Wilkins, ITV News, Brighton.
Looks good, that, and we all learned something, because did you know the name Mercedes Gleis before that? I didn't before today. Have to be very honest about that. Pip's with us now. Pip, another weather warning, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Rain currently affecting the Meridian region. No surprise then that the Met Office have issued another rain warning. Let's take a look at the area most affected, the same area that's becoming very familiar at the moment, the southeast of the UK. It's valid until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, but I suspect the next 2 to 3 hours will be when we see the worst of the weather. Difficult driving conditions, lots of spray and standing water, and the ground is so saturated at the moment we could see some further localised flooding.
So, lots of rain around. Bright side, lots of rainbows.
Yeah, that's right. So what do we need for rainbows? We need rain and sun. And let's take a look at these pictures from John and Jean. Absolutely classic rainbow conditions. This is how the day started. Leaden skies, gusty winds, really choppy seas. 15 minutes later, that's how it looked. Glorious blue skies and the seas much calmer. And of course, that gives us some rainbows. This one was sent in by James and Nikki, a double rainbow here. And that second rainbow you can see just faintly above there, that's formed when the sunlight bounces twice off of each raindrop. Another lovely example here from Joan Dumbleton. Again, glorious blue skies behind that rainbow. And the secondary rainbow, always a little bit fainter, but always much wider. And the colours, if you look closely, actually go back to front. Yeah.
I was just looking to make sure you weren't pointing at the rainbows, because everyone knows that's bad luck. It's not just me.
Is it? Oh, I didn't know that.
Do not point at a rainbow.
Oh,
no.
Oh.
Have I made that up?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Did you dream it?
Possibly. Here's the forecast with Pip.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
So plenty more settled weather on the way over the coming days, especially so through this evening and tonight. We do, of course, have that yellow Met Office rain warning in force. It could lead to some disruption, tricky driving conditions out there through the next few hours. Lots of spray and standing water on the roads, and the risk too of some further localised flooding. So here's that rain already marching its way northeast with some really heavy and persistent bursts and their blustery winds with it too. As the worst of the rain clears, we'll see showers tucking in behind. These too could be on the heavy side. Still those brisk winds taking us through to dawn, and temperature wise, well, a little cooler than it has been of late, probably single figures all round. Tomorrow morning then, still some lingering cloud and outbreaks of showery rain, but I think as the day wears on, that will continue to pull its way ever so slowly northwards. As it does so, a lot of drier and brighter weather developing, perhaps just 1 or 2 showers just brushing the very far south coast. But even with the emerging sunshine, temperatures will be on the modest side tomorrow, highs of just 11 or 12 Celsius, and of course feeling cooler than that in the breeze. High tides for tomorrow for Dover, 4:45 in the morning and 5:35 in the afternoon. Now beyond that, as we head through Thursday night and into Friday, it looks as though things will get a little quieter for a time. So the low pressure starts to pull its way northwards, drier conditions developing, and hopefully those drier conditions carrying us into Saturday as well. So a brief respite from the unsettled weather, and perhaps a somewhat cooler one as well. Friday night into Saturday, temperatures well down on recent nights, perhaps the first widespread frost the UK's seen so far this season. Bye-bye.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And we found out that in some cultures it is indeed bad luck to point at rainbows. So
breaking news.
Breaking news tonight.
Do not point at rainbows.
Well, in just a moment here on ITV1, the evening news with Mary Nightingale.
That's it from us. Have a fantastic evening. Bye for now.